Picture this. You're sitting in a training session. The facilitator has the best intentions in the world. The slides are packed, and I mean absolutely packed. There are bullet points, subpoints, a diagram with 12 arrows, a table, and somewhere in the middle of all this, there is a video playing in a pop up window while the facilitator is also talking. And you're sitting there thinking, I have no idea what is happening. I understood the first slide, I think I understood the second one, and now I'm just nodding and hoping nobody asks me a question. Sound familiar? That feeling, that specific sensation of your brain quietly giving up, has a name. It's called cognitive overload. And it is one of the most common reasons that training fails to stick. But here's the good news. Once you understand what cognitive load actually is, you will never design or sit through a confusing training session in quite the same way again. Hello and welcome to the L&D Academy's channel. My name is Irina, and in today's video, I want to explain cognitive load theory, what it is, why it matters, and what it actually looks like in practice. Cognitive load is one of those concepts that sounds academic. By the way, it was developed by educational psychologist John Sweller in the 1980s, but once you understand it, you'll start to see it everywhere. In every training you design, in every meeting you have to sit through, in every onboarding process you have ever experienced. So let's dive in. What is cognitive load? Here's the core idea. Your working memory, the part of your brain that actively processes new information, is very, very small. We're talking about the mental equivalent of a sticky note. Research suggests that we hold roughly anywhere between 4 to 6, maybe even 7 pieces of information at any one time. So cognitive load is the total amount of mental effort being used in your working memory at a given moment. And when that load exceeds what your working memory can handle, that's when you hit a wall. Information stops being processed, learning stops happening, and you end up nodding along in a training session having retained approximately nothing. Think of it like a browser with too many tabs open. Everything slows down. Some tabs stop loading altogether. Your computer is not broken, it's just overwhelmed. And that is your brain during a poorly designed training program. And the really important thing to understand is this. Cognitive load is not about intelligence. It's not about how smart your learners are, but it's rather more about how much your design is asking of their working memory, which means it is entirely within your control as an L&D professional. Now, cognitive load theory actually breaks this down into 3 types. And this is where it gets really practical because each type requires a different response from you as a designer. Type 1, intrinsic load. Intrinsic load is the natural complexity of the subject matter itself. Some topics are just harder than others. That is not a design problem. It is the nature of the content. For example, teaching someone how to say hello in a new language, that's low intrinsic load. Teaching someone to file a tax return for a multinational corporation, very high intrinsic load. You cannot eliminate intrinsic load. The content is what it is, but you can manage it. You sequence the learning very carefully, starting with the simpler concepts before building to the more complex ones. You chunk information into digestible steps rather than presenting everything all at once. And you give your learners time to process and consolidate before you add more. Type 2, extraneous load. Extraneous load is the cognitive effort caused by the way the information is presented, not the information itself. This is one that is entirely your fault as a designer. I say that with love, obviously. Extraneous load is everything that makes learning harder without making it more effective. Cluttered slides, inconsistent layouts, jargon that hasn't been defined, a narrator reading word for word from the text that is already on the screen. So the learner is processing the same information twice through 2 different channels simultaneously. Here's a brilliant real-life example of extraneous load. You're following a recipe for the very first time, and the recipe says deglaze the pan with white wine, scraping up the fond, then reduce all sink before mounting with cold butter. And you're standing in your kitchen thinking, I just wanted to make pasta. The cooking process itself, not that complicated, but the way it has been described, extraneous load through the roof. A good recipe writer would say, pour wine into the hot pan, scrape up the brown bits from the bottom, cook until almost dry, and then stir in cold butter. Same information, a fraction of the cognitive effort. The goal with extraneous load is simple: eliminate it. Every element in your training that is not directly supporting the learning objective is extraneous load, and it needs to go. Type 3, germane load. Germane load is the cognitive effort involved in actually constructing knowledge, taking new information and connecting it to what you already know, this way building mental schemas and making meaning. This is the good kind of cognitive load. This is the cognitive work you want learners to be doing. Think about the first time you drove a car. Every single action required conscious effort. Check the mirror, signal, check the mirror again, release the clutch slowly, not that slowly. Oh, now the car has stalled. Try again, check the mirror. All of that was genuinely hard. Your working memory was completely full. But now, well, now you drive home on autopilot while having a full conversation, choosing a podcast to listen to, and mentally planning dinner. You have built a schema. The once conscious actions have become automatic. And that freed up working memory is now available for the conversation, the podcast, and the dinner planning. That process, moving knowledge from effortful working memory to automatic long term memory, is germane load at work. And your job as an L&D designer is to protect the space for it by reducing extraneous load and managing intrinsic load effectively. Let me give you three more examples from real working life because I find this is where cognitive load theory really clicks. Example one, the onboarding program for hell. It is your first day at a new job. By 10 a.m., you have been given a 47-page employee handbook, access to 6 different software systems, a 90-minute presentation about the company history, a health and safety video, a compliance module, a tour of 3 different floors, and introduced to approximately 40 people whose names you will absolutely not remember. By lunchtime, you're exhausted. Not because you're not capable or stupid, but because your working memory has been completely overwhelmed by an enormous amount of intrinsic load. New systems, new people, new process, new culture, with zero opportunity to process and consolidate any of it. A cognitive load informed onboarding program would look completely different. Day one covers only what you genuinely need to know to get through day one. Day two builds on that, and so on. And by week two, you're adding the more complex layers. The information is the same. The sequence and the pacing are what change. And the result is a new starter who actually retains something. Example two, the e-learning module with everything on it. We have all seen this one. An e-learning module opens up with an animated logo, then a progress bar, then a set of objectives in a font that is slightly too small, then a video of a senior leader explaining why this training matters, then a scenario, then a knowledge share, then a drag and drop activity, then more content, then another video, then a reflection question, then a summary, then a final quiz. Ugh. The instructional designer who built it was trying to be thorough. They included every modality, every type of interaction, every possible engagement strategy. And the result is a module that feels exhausting to complete because the learner's working memory is constantly being switched between different formats, different tasks, and different types of mental processing. Less is genuinely more. A single, clear learning objective, 1 or 2 well chosen formats, a manageable amount of content. That is how you design for cognitive loads. Example 3, the instruction manual nobody reads. You buy a piece of flat pack furniture. The instruction manual is 16 pages long, written in 6 languages simultaneously, illustrated with diagrams that look like they were drawn by someone who has never seen furniture, and includes a warning on page 14 that you realize you should have read on page 2. Nobody reads this manual properly. Not because people are lazy, but because the extraneous load, the poor layout, the unclear sequencing, the 6 language format, the missing labels, it all makes it a cognitively harder to follow the instructions than to just look at the pieces and try to figure it out yourself. Now, compare that to the IKEA instructions. No words at all, just clear sequence diagrams, one step at a time. Extraneous load almost completely eliminated, which is why IKEA furniture, frustrating as it sometimes is, at least gets built. So, why should this matter to you as an L&D professional? Because almost every training failure I have seen in my career the session that fell flat, the e-learning nobody finished, the workshop that got great smile sheets but zero behavioral change had cognitive load at the root of it. Not because the content was wrong, not because the learners were not motivated, but because the design asked too much of working memory in the wrong order, with too much noise around the signal. When you design with cognitive load in mind, you start asking different questions. Not just, have I covered everything, but how much am I asking learners to hold in their heads at once? Not just, is this content accurate, but is this the right moment in the sequence to introduce this concept? Not just, is the slide visually interesting, but is every element on the slide earning its place, or is some of it just adding noise? Those questions change the quality of what you produce every time. So, what is cognitive load? It is the total mental effort your working memory is carrying at any given moment. Too much of it, and learning breaks down. The right amount of it, well managed, well sequenced, stripped of any unnecessary noise, and the learning happens effectively. Intrinsic load is the complexity of the content. You manage it through sequencing and chunking. Extraneous load is the noise created by poor design. You eliminate it. And germane load is the good cognitive work of building real understanding. You protect the space for it. And next time you find yourself in a training session staring at a slide with 12 bullet points and 3 animated diagrams all playing simultaneously, you will know exactly what is happening. Your working memory is full. The sticky note is overflowing. The browser has had too many tabs open. And if you're the one designing that training, well, now you know what to do differently. If you found this useful, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.